When my body won't hold me anymore, it finally lets me free, will I be ready? When my feet won't walk another mile, my lips give their last kiss goodbye, will my hands be steady? When I lay down my fears, my hopes and my doubts, the rings on my fingers and the keys to my house, with no hard feelings. When the sun hangs low in the west, the light in my chest won't be kept held at bay any longer. When the jealousy fades away and it's ash and dust for cash and lust, and it's just hallelujah and loving thoughts and loving the words and loving the songs that they sing in the church. No hard feelings. The Lord knows they haven't done much good for anyone, kept me afraid and cold, with so much to have and hold. When my body won't hold me anymore and finally lets me free, where will I go? Will the trade winds take me south through Georgia grain or tropical rain? Will the snow from the heavens? Will I join with the ocean blue, or run into the Savior true, and shake hands laughing and walk through the night straight to the light, holding the love that I've known in my life, and no heart kept me afraid and cold, with so much to have and hold. Under the curving sky, I'm finally learning why it matters for me and you to say it and mean it too. For life and its loveliness and all of its ugliness, as good as it's been to me, I have no enemies. I have no enemies. I have no enemies.
Good morning, and welcome to WellSprings. My name is Benjamin Kaufman. My pronouns are he and him, and I am so happy to be here today as your worship leader. And regardless if this is your first time here, or if you've been attending services for years, we still welcome you here with open arms, just as you are. Each week when we gather, we light a chalice. Today our chalice is scented grapefruit and ginger. I try to switch it up each time I worship lead, though the scent today is the same as last time, but the candle looks a little different. Anyways, this chalice is not only a motif of our spiritual heritage as Unitarian Universalists, but it also resembles the divine spark that is within each and every single one of us. My dog Gaius will help me light the chalice today. He's looking at me a little funny because I said his name. And after we have done so, we're going to say the words on the screen together. Right, up. Good boy. Good boy. Oh, don't lie down. People need to see you. All right, let's light the chalice. Oh, there he goes. All right, and together we say, we light our chalice, celebrate the path before us, the warmth of kindness that shines from within us, and the radiance of wisdom that is shared between us and never goes out. Our mission here at WellSprings is to be a community charged full with the charge of the soul. Now, recently, I think it's been a bit easier to charge the soul, as I'm sure many of you would agree, considering certain political developments. But I sort of feel like that's what a lot of people will be focusing on right now. So I don't think that's what I'll be talking about today. I do want to give you all a bit of a trigger warning because my message today, I'll be talking about my own experiences with mental health. And I do mention some suicidal thoughts that I had. If this is too much for you right now, totally 100% understandable. You may just want to mute my talk. But I promise it's not too intense. And I'm here right now. I'm doing extremely well. I have been for a while. And it's a positive message at the end, right? So I encourage people to listen so we can grow together. So my story takes place when I was a bit older than 20. And at the time, I was undiagnosed with anxiety, social anxiety, and depression. And I've been struggling with these aspects of my mental health for years, for a very long time. They were a huge contributor to my migraine headaches, which pretty much devastated my high school experience. And even though I'm an intelligent person and passionate about my studies, my mental health struggles caused me to fail classes in college. Well, even more than that, caused me to fail entire semesters. They also contributed to failed relationships, both platonic and romantic. And they brought me to a place where I would wake up in the morning and dread that I had to exist that day. Sometimes while driving, let's say on the highway, I would drive over a bridge and I would think to myself, maybe this would be a good spot. I was hiding my struggles from everybody, literally every single person. I was the only one who knew of my struggles. I felt scared and weak to express myself. So I lied. put on a mask, and I lied constantly. I lied about how I was feeling. I lied about what I was doing. And I lied about how school was going. I lied about all sorts of things. And of course, these lies made me feel even worse about myself. So what got me out? Well, many things. But I'll tell you a pretty significant one. I was attending mainline Unitarian Church at the time, and we had a guest speaker one day, a guest speaker reverend. And this speaker talked openly and honestly about their struggles with alcoholism. And I was incredibly inspired. Here was a reverend talking about a personal struggle that society often looks down upon. And this reverend was talking to, I don't know, maybe 100 people. And I related, not because I was struggling with addiction, but because this person could talk openly and get help and still be a fantastic and strong person. And I thought, if that reverend could do that, well, maybe I could too. And that speaker was Reverend Ken Belden. And Reverend Ken, if you're watching this, I legitimately think you saved my life that day. You gave me the courage to open up, to talk, and seek the help that I so desperately needed. And to this day, I take that lesson I learned to heart. Because to be open, honest, and vulnerable about our struggles does two things. First, it helps ourselves. Because I opened up, I got help, I grew confidence, I found community, and I developed the capacity to work through my mental health and grow. Second, vulnerability helps other people. It's why I still talk about my serious struggles with mental health, even when I'm doing great, like right now. Because speaking up and being vulnerable can give others the courage to speak up too, and get help themselves. Our vulnerability can help break the masks that cover up so many of our faces. My wish for you all today is to get help if you need it. You are worthy of that assistance, and you don't have to be alone. And I know it's hard, but reach out, talk, and communicate. Find your support people. And not everyone is going to be a good support person. Even friends, family, some of them might not be great support people. And that's okay. Just keep searching until you find them. They're out there. And it will get better with some work and some time. I promise you that. Even if right now you're waking up just like I was, dreading to be alive. Those feelings are not permanent. I also wish for us all to take opportunities to be vulnerable for both ourselves and those around us. Because it is together, not alone, when we can spread the charge of the soul and make the world a better place for us all. All right, so maybe you're sitting, or you could be standing or lying down or whatever, right? This is virtual. You can be doing whatever you want. And you might be wondering to yourself, well, how can I connect further with this wonderful, amazing congregation? Well, reaching out is really easy. Our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and website information should all be on the screen right now. Please check us out. And if you're curious about any of our songs or need more information about general events, check out the video description below. There are a lot of really helpful links down there. Lastly, if you're new to our community, well, first of all, welcome. We encourage you to fill out our online connection card so you can learn more about us. And that link can also be found below in the video description. So Jessica will now share with you all a few things we would like to highlight this week. Take it away, Jessica.
Hi, WellSprings. My name's Jessica Heichel, and I have two announcements for you this week. The first is that coming up on Saturday, February 6th at 2 p.m., we are holding a memorial service for our friend Robert Merritt. This will look a lot like Sunday services look in that it is taking place on YouTube, and if you are logged in, you'll be able to participate in the live chat alongside the video. Your fellow Wellspringers will be there, Robert's family will be there, and of course the ministers here at WellSprings will be there as well. After the service on YouTube, there's going to be a reception happening on Zoom. As we get closer to the actual date specifics, like web addresses for the video and the reception, will be made available, but for right now, I'm going to link you to the event page on our website, which you can use as sort of a save the date. Also happening on Saturday, February 6th at 7 p.m. is our first ever intergenerational game night. So our teen game nights have been very successful, going great. So this time we're inviting folks who are older or younger than teenagers to come join. You don't need any special equipment other than a computer screen or phone. And you'll be able to play online some of these games safely, socially distanced from home. And we hope you're able to join us for this first one. Thanks so much, everyone, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Jessica. At WellSprings, the foundation of all we do is found in the power of connection, of making space in our hearts and our lives for one another. I encourage you to send a text to a WellSprings friend, maybe someone you haven't talked to in a while. Or maybe say hi in the live video chat going on right now, if you're watching live, that is. We also have our online coffee hour at 11 o'clock a.m., which is right after the live service, and it's on Zoom. You can click the link below after the service to join. Now, sadly, I work Sunday mornings now, so I'll be unable to say hi myself during the live service. But maybe some of you are working too, or you're busy and will need to watch the video later. Just know that this doesn't change the fact that we're all here in the spirit of connection together, regardless of where we are or what we may be doing. I should also mention that it's also possible you're struggling right now, right? Like what I was talking about in my message. And reaching out right now or showing yourself or your apartment or house on Zoom might be a bit too much. And that's okay. That's really okay. I know I've been there countless times throughout my life. Just know in your heart that we're all here together right now. You're not alone. Even if we're just here in thought and love, we're here in the spirit of connection. So thank you all for your greetings today. I invite you now into our time of generosity, a time to reflect upon and to express our gratitude for the role WellSprings plays in our own lives and in the wider world. If you feel the value of our community, we hope you'll share a gift with us. And hey, we got a banner on the screen right now that makes it nice and easy. As it says, you can text WSprings, so WSPRINGS. So you text that to 73256 to make a donation. Easy peasy. Thank you all so very much for your support. Our offering will now be gratefully received. Just as we've taken the time to share the energy of connection among us and generosity beyond us, let's now devote some time to reground into the deep and soulful energy that is within ourselves. We do this by doing what is most simple and elemental in our lives. We take a breath. We inhale and exhale without rush or hurry. We breathe in and we breathe out. There's nowhere else to go, nowhere else to be, and nothing else to do than to be here together now. We follow these words from Thich Nhat Hanh into our time of mindful silence. If we want to enter heaven on earth, we need only one conscious step and one conscious breath. Let us cultivate peace and presence in this quiet time together. wherever it is that we are, whatever it is that we are doing, however it is that we are feeling, let us remember that peace and presence are always as close to us as is our own breath. May this be so for you in this moment. May it be so for you this day. And may it be so for you in the days to come. May it be so for all of us. And now, it is time for our Youth Spirit Yell!
Okay, WellSprings, well, thanks to your generosity once again, we are going to be taking a bunch of stuff to media. I'm about to take over my carload to Tiffany. I forgot to get the stuff from my house, so I'll have to make a second trip because you also dropped items off at my house as well as at Micah's and Tiffany's. Thank you again for your generosity. Springs, I'm at BJ's. This is about half of the stuff that we were able to buy with the $825. I've got a lot of boxes to take over to Tiffany so we can box up stuff and maybe try and make it fit in one car.
WellSprings, thank you so much for all of these amazing items. I'm headed to media now to drop them off, and they'll be headed to shelters in the community. So we think it's an amazing way to honor MLK Day, so thank you so much for your help. All right, let's see if we can get this to close. Take two. We got it all in the car, and I'm on my way to media.
I got troubles, Lord, but not today. 'Cause they gonna wash away. They gonna wash away. I got sins, Lord, but not today. 'Cause they gonna wash away. They gonna wash away. I got friends, Lord, but not today. 'Cause they done washed away. They done washed away. Oh, I've been crying. Oh, I've been crying. Oh, no more crying. No, no more crying. We get along, Lord, but not today. We done washed away. We done washed away. I got troubles, Lord, but not today. 'Cause they won't wash away. This old river's gonna take them away.
So, in the days after the terrorist attack on 9/11, one of the art teachers in the school I was teaching in offered an after-school retreat for anyone interested in coming to her classroom, doing art as a way to respond to what had occurred. I had been teaching there for about 3 years then, and I ate lunch with her every day, and I'd always enjoyed art classes. Took several in high school and a couple in college, and even considered at one point to have do something in that field as my career. And so I went to the space for a retreat. And I don't recall what art we practiced. I don't recall how many people showed up for the next couple of weeks. But I do recall the space of her classroom. And the big art tables, the easels, a kiln in the back room, student work adorning the walls, hanging from the ceiling. The art was a way for us to get out of our heads and find some solace in each other's company. So the other interesting aspect of this was that she is a Quaker, and so both during lunch and during this time, we were able to engage in discussion about what had happened. And at the time, I was still in the Army Reserve, and I had no idea if I would get mobilized or what would occur with my unit. But more importantly, being in that space enabled conversations and a bridging of different viewpoints over what our nation's response could or should be. So when I learned of the theme for this message series, I was reminded how drawing and art seemed to be something that I had set aside and was something that maybe I could and should come home to. And that rekindling that practice could be a new spiritual practice for me. And as I thought more about it, the memory of being in her classroom during that time came up for me as well. How that space felt and what it could mean for me now, and how such an activity could help me find some stillness. So what makes a spiritual practice? If you've been around WellSprings for any length of time, you likely have had conversation with somebody about your spiritual practice, how you do it, what is it, what it looks like, what's your commitment to it, what does that look like for you, doing something as your own spiritual practice. So, and for me, it was the same. So after attending sporadically here, what turned me into a regular attender and then a member was taking the springboard of running as a spiritual practice that Ted Howe offered about 5 years ago now. And I was hooked. It combined running, something I already loved, with spirituality, which was something that I was seeking. And 5 years later, here I am. So there's a lot of tools that you can use in a spiritual practice. Yoga, mindfulness, cooking, running, more, a lot of different items. The ideas behind such a practice are simple yet powerful. What is it that you do with intentionality? What is it that you do with regularity? What is it that you do with any depth? What's this tool that enables you to slow down, to pay attention, to focus, or to empty? And I think this is important to consider too. The act is the tool and it shapes you. But what tool you use over your life will vary. And allow it to change over time, because each one can teach you something about yourself, can teach you something about others, and it can teach you about your own spirituality. So let me read to you a passage from one of the books suggested for this message series, Everyday Spiritual Practice. And in a chapter about balance, the Unitarian Universalist minister Susan Manker Seal writes, "The deep meaning of spirituality is breath. Breath is the taking in of life-giving essence from the world around us, and the release, in turn, of life-giving essence. It is a metaphor for our interdependencies, the fact that we change and are changed by our environment, and a continuous play of creation. Spiritual practices are aimed at helping us understand that connectedness, to sense our oneness to the end that our yearning is appeased in actuality." So creating art can make that space to enable you to find your breath, to find your center, to find your balance. But what distinguishes the making of art as a spiritual practice compared to the making of art as a hobby or a pastime? I think the key aspect here is intentionality. You can create art with regularity and with some degree of depth as your skill improves, But what's your intention when you sit down with the sketch pad or the easel? Setting that intentionality before your session, it makes this a very powerful practice. You may engage in different practices over your life, but when you approach drawing with the intention of being awake to the everyday divine, to seek your breath and center, then it becomes a spiritual practice. And this intentionality enables the spiritual to enter the daily, more mundane world. Spirituality is not just the province of those cloistered apart from the world. Finding your regular practice, approaching it with intentionality and depth, that enables you to experience this needed aspect of your life. I believe it makes us whole. Maybe you grew up in a tradition in which spirituality was once a week, and that was that, and the rest of the week, that was something we do on Sundays or whatever day of the Sabbath was for you. Or spirituality was only done by those who left the world for some sort of monastic experience. But ours is a tradition in which the divine is with us daily in all of our experiences and moments, if we are awake to it. And I have to say that while a part of me used to like the idea of maybe being that sort of hermit monk away from the world, the past 10 months of pandemic lockdown have kind of changed my thinking on the matter. One of the things I learned in preparing this message is the origins of the word worship, which it has some bearing here. It appears that the words derive from the Old English words weorth, which means worth or value, and sheepen, probably not saying either of those words correctly, which means to shape. So engaging in worship then is to shape something of value. And this seems to fit when we are making art, because we are shaping the page when we draw. We are shaping the clay in our hands at the pottery wheel. We're shaping the colors when we paint or weave. And if we have the intentionality, we are shaping our spiritual life. We are becoming whole. So compared to other practices, making art as a spiritual practice allows for a deep touch and a deep tactile response. Our fingers are incredibly sensitive. And when you're blending pastels or throwing clay or painting, it activates something beyond just your mind. And it gives you immediate feedback in a way that other practices may not do. And as you go deeper and further into the practice, the more you're able to notice how you respond to it. So if you practice meditation, you may have done body scan type exercises in which you draw your attention to individual parts of your body. When drawing, especially when you're using pastels or charcoal or similar things, this is very readily done. I notice how it feels in my hands, how the amount of pressure I exert changes what the page looks like. Using my fingers as a tool to blend the colors or shade the objects I'm trying to draw. It helps me become more fully present in that moment. And that seems to be ultimately what a spiritual practice enables you to do, being present. So what I want to do next is to help us all become more present through art. So the neat thing about the message this month, the neat thing about the message is that last month, members of WellSprings got these very lovely care packages. And if you missed the making of behind the scenes video, you really do need to check that out on the YouTube channel. And don't go see it now. Look at it later. But you do need to check it out. It's a hoot. So in the care package was this very lovely blank notebook. Right? Blank, no lines. And I really love notebooks. Unlined, line, graph paper, what have you. I got to say, if it's lined, it's got to be college ruled. That's just the way it is. Sorry. But this one is really nice because it is unlined. Okay. Doesn't matter which direction, sideways, top to bottom. You can write a note You can draw something, crayons, markers, what have you. You can make an airplane, do some origami. The possibilities are really endless. So I'm going to use this and a pen, and maybe you have a favorite pen or pencil like me, but maybe you don't, but you just need something that'll write. And I want to share with you a simple practice. This is closer to a mindfulness exercise that involves drawing rather than a drawing practice first, if that makes sense. So take a moment, have your piece of paper and pencil or pen. I'm going to turn my notebook sideways like this, and what we're going to do is follow our breath with the pen. I have the pad in landscape style on its side, and this is simple. We're just going to find a comfortable upright posture. Put your feet firmly on the ground. If you're sitting, this is about connecting with your breath through drawing. You want to start about halfway down the page, and you're just going to really just inhale and move the pen up the page. And when you exhale, go down. So you inhale up and exhale down. We're following our breath. We inhale up, exhale down. This is simple. We're helping regulate our nervous system. And exhale as you go down. This is an image of what we're experiencing with our breath. This could be a different way of meditation for you or mindfulness. We inhale up and we exhale down. We feel the pen against the paper. We feel it in our hands. We're just breathing in and breathing out. We're just breathing in and breathing out. And if your mind goes somewhere else, that's okay. Just go back to where the pen is. Focus on your breath. And this is something you can do maybe if you're like me and you tend to just look at screens all day and talk to people and text and type words. This returns us to something a little bit more analog. And we exhale. This is vinyl, not digital. And we exhale down. It's going to help us regain. We inhale up and we exhale down. Maybe this is something you can do each morning when you get up, or maybe each night before you go to bed, or maybe during the day. We exhale, we go down. Recentering ourselves is important. And we exhale down. This can serve as double duty. You can do this as a self-care exercise, part of a routine that reminds us that we are all here and present. It's finding our moment. And we exhale down. And we can pause. And so that a little bit of drawing meditation exercise for us today. So how does this connect to us as Wellspringers? I would suggest that making art relates to our Wellsprings DNA. We talk about how the divine is available to us in the holiness of our everyday experiences. Bringing your attention to what's there with you each day helps. And the older I get, the more I realize that the quotidian world This everyday world is really can be a source of great spirituality if you are awake to it. It's like the well-known Thich Nhat Hanh quote, when you are doing the dishes, do the dishes. Be there now. Be present to what is in front of you. Don't think about what you want it to look like or what it was in the past, but be awake to the possibility of what is present in front of you and within you. And that's where art and drawing can come in, because if you take an art class of any sort, you're likely, drawing class, you're likely going to be asked to draw some really mundane object that you see every day. Maybe you don't pay any attention to it at first. So recently I took an online class with the Philly Art Center, and I spent about 3 or 4 weeks in that class drawing the same small array of 3 candles, little Christmas candles arrayed on a table. And imagine how much I learned about those candles during that time. Each uniquely shaped and shadowed, the glass of the one candle container, trying to capture its highlights and the shadows within it, getting lost a bit in all of that, getting lost in figuring out how to make the shadows of this pine cone candle look the way I wanted it to look. And then consider how that carries over when you are not making art. You can begin to recognize the beauty that is always there in front of you if you're awake to the possibility. So for our last exercise, what I'd like to do is for you to have a notebook or paper, pencil or pen, something to draw with, and pick an object that you would like to focus on. And we're going to take a few minutes to sketch out what we see. Okay, so for this last drawing, we have our day-to-day object. So candle, you can kind of see, so we have some shadows here where the lights are, the highlights, a different color top. And what I'm going to put over here, you're not going to be able to see it, but I can, for us to draw. And then I have my pad sitting out, all ready to go. Boom, however you want to put it. You can do it portrait style, landscape style. I'm going to do it landscape just because. So, and I'm going to use pens so you can see it. And I want you to approach this with the confidence of a small child, a 4-year-old who's just been given a brand new set of markers and crayons and a big old piece of paper, and they're ready to go to town because they have beginner's mind. They know they're artists, and so are you. The end product really matters much less than the process here. So sometimes it's easier to start with kind of like what's called a gestural drawing, where you just kind of just kind of get the proportions right. You just kind of drawing some circles here. We have the sides of the glass container. We have a simple little bottom, and then we can then work a little bit more on that. And while you draw, you're going to see some time-lapse videos of some of the things that I did during the course of my drawing class recently, I guess. And I'm kind of putting myself out there because my profession is definitely not artist. My profession is something other than that. And I know some of you are real artists with a capital A. And so I'm being a little bit vulnerable here. So there we go. While you're doing this, you want to kind of look at the object more than your pencil and paper. And you want to imagine okay, that is flowing within from the drawing to my pencil and paper, so that I have a sense of what it is. And that way you just kind of let your mind do it and you be present. You want to think about how the pen feels in your hand, how the pencil feels in your hand. Is it chalk? Is it pastel? Is it a crayon? Is it a marker? Is it skinny? Is it fat? Is it thick? Think about the sound that the pen is making on your paper. Think about your feet on the ground. You're being present. Maybe you're imagining Bob Ross. He's talking about little happy accidents because that's the attitude we need. Maybe you want to draw Bernie's mittens. It doesn't matter what it looks like. If you get stuck, if you don't like how it looks, that's okay. Tear out the page, start anew. That's the presence part. That's the part, just like in meditation. If you get off track, that's okay. Come back to it and revisit it again. So thank you for sticking with this and with me during this message. Maybe a little silly, maybe a little serious. My wish for you today is that you see the beauty of the everyday things and you find your own stillness. May you live in blessing. Amen. Will you pray with me? God of our understanding, divine creative spark that drew the world and all the creatures within it into being, we scribe our prayers of gratitude upon the universe. We color our worship with joy and love. We sculpt our hands and hearts into those that heal. We weave our souls and spirits into the interconnected whole. And we say thank you for letting us see the beauty of everyday things, to be present, to be awake to those experiences. For the prayers I've spoken and the prayers unspoken, but on the hearts of all those here, I say amen.
When it rains, it pours, but you didn't even notice. It ain't raining anymore. It's hard to breathe when all you know is the struggle of staying above the rising waterline. The sky is finally open. Rain and wind stop blowing, but you're stuck out in the same old storm again. Hold tight to your umbrella, darling, I'm just trying to tell you that there's always been a rainbow hanging over your head. If you could see what I see, you'd be blinded by the colors, yellow, red, and orange, and green, and at least a million others. Tie up the bow, take off your coat, and take a look around, 'cause the sky is finally open. Rain and wind stopped blowing, but you're stuck out in the same old storm again. Hold tight to your umbrella, darling, I'm just trying to tell you that there's always been a rainbow hanging over your head. Oh, tie up the bow, take off your coat, and take a look around. Everything is alright now, 'cause the sky is finally open. Rain and wind stopped blowing, but you're stuck out in the same old storm again. Let go of your umbrella, darling, I'm just trying to tell you that there's always been a rainbow hanging over your head. Yeah, there's always been
This is the time in our service when we extinguish the chalice that was lit earlier. And although this light goes out, the light remains. And we say these words together. As we release this flame from its faithful service today, we allow the spark in each of us to burn on, to warm our compassion, to fire our delight, to light our paths today, tomorrow, and always. Hope to see you in the Zoom coffee hour immediately after service. May you be well, may you be healthy. Thank you.